pull my agenda out. Any changes to the agenda, John?
No changes to agenda, but we have a camera here.
Audio and audio.
I have a camera. I don't know. Do I need to announce who's recording?
Yeah, I think everyone can see it, just announce that there's.
Can I have your name? Or do I need to say who's recording?
No, just that
Okay.
someone's recording.
Someone's recording, and Dot Agu is recording for her own purposes, audio.
If
All right.
I could, just Seth, what's your last name again? Kleinfelder.
All right, so moving on to public input. Dale Kreider, 8/10/21. I don't know what that says. Clarification?
Clarification.
Yes.
Could Sam go first, Sam Blau?
Sure.
I have a little statement I would like to make.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Samuel Blau. I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the South Londonderry Township Municipal Authority. I would like to start by saying, first and foremost, the municipal authority's main objective is to provide a safe and clean discharge from all four of its wastewater facilities and to operate in the most efficient manner to keep the sewer user rates as low as possible. Secondly, we take offense to the Township Board of Supervisors suggesting that people cannot contact us. Anyone with any questions or concerns about anything sewer related can contact Public Works Director Scott Galbraith at the Township office any day of the week during regular business hours. The authority also holds a regular business meeting open to the public every first Thursday of each month. Township Manager John Eberly attends each monthly meeting. Anyone else who has interest is welcome to attend. The municipal authority is responsible for the maintenance of all the municipal authority property, including all the sewer plants associated, sewer lines, and pump stations. The authority is solely responsible for all discharge from its treatment facilities to the receiving streams. The township is not held liable for any of the above-mentioned costs to operate and maintain the facilities are funded solely from sewer rates paid by township residents connected to the public sewer system. The cost of construction and facility upgrades are funded by various grants and loans. As far as the Mount Gretna area goes, the municipal authority does not own that portion of the public sewer system. Our crews perform daily checks on the pump station and provide minor repairs. However, any major repairs are the responsibility of the township and at the discretion of the township, as the township is the owner of the public sewer system in that area. It has been brought to my attention that certain members of the Township Board of Supervisors wish to dissolve the municipal authority. I am not understanding why the municipal authority runs in the black year after year, manages their funds in a most efficient manner, is self-sustaining, and does not need to operate for profit as a private contracted entity would. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
I'm only going to ask for one clarification. I think it would be only fair to you to indicate who made the comment, because there was no support by anybody that was here.
I had that originally in this, it was edited out. And that was proposed by Bill Bova.
So you didn't, so someone else wrote that? You just wrote it?
I wrote it. It was edited to shorten it because my version was longer.
Okay.
Dale, do you want to go now?
Yeah, Dale Kreider, I'm currently the chair of the municipal authority, and I just wanted some clarification on some of what Sam talked about there. And have you talked about dissolving the authority at all?
No.
No.
Okay, I was just curious because I know over the years there's been discussion about that, and there'd be three options there that could happen, but we were just curious.
No.
We also know that there's some frustration apparently with the authority not communicating, and I'm curious of what those frustrations are.
Do you have anything?
I don't really have anything. I think, I've been to your meetings numerous times, and I think I lay it all out there for you. If I have questions, issues, I bring them to your attention.
Okay. Yeah, I was just concerned that some of what was said at the end of that August 10th meeting might have left some residents hanging a little bit about what if the authority's not doing their job according to what the supervisors feel like we ought to be, and if we're not, we certainly would appreciate you letting us know. And if you continue to reappoint us, we're going to continue doing this job. And I've been on this a little over 30 years, not quite as long as your dad was, but about that long. And so we would appreciate knowing if there's something that we can be helpful with. And so if there's something not going back and forth between the two groups, somehow we need to be aware of that.
I think that's why we've set up meetings over the past year, trying to get that stuff worked out.
Okay, we made
So-
a decision in our last meeting that we are going to begin to email all of our requests and close copies to both the supervisors, the manager, and the rest of the authority, so that we don't get anything lost in translation.
Okay.
I'll just point out again, that conversation was made by one supervisor, and Faith can speak for herself, but it received no support here, so.
Yeah, no, I would, that's why I'm asking. And I want to clear up in a public meeting too. Thank you.
Yes, Connie?
I wanted to come to a meeting and I wasn't able to. When did the pumping station in Mount Gretna, because that's separate
Yes.
from everything else.
Yes.
When did that happen?
That was from day one. That was before I started working here 32 years
Okay.
ago. That has been owned by the township. We go out and we check it daily. We also make notes if there are anything that needs repair out there.
Right.
And we pass that on to the township. You know, there is a separate fund set aside to do repairs out in that system, and there currently is quite a bit of repair needed.
Right, you say
Okay, so
municipal
we're planning
party
to-
sets money aside.
The township sets money aside
Okay,
because
yeah.
the township owns
Right,
those
right.
lines.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Mark Hauser, lantern flies. You have a problem? There's no problem.
Just a tad. After last meeting, John had emailed me some information on spotted lantern flies from Penn State Extension. So one of the first paragraphs says, the spotted lantern fly quarantine enacted by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture says property owners are responsible for controlling or eliminating spotted lantern flies on their property. Is that going to be enforced?
Oh, gosh.
Like, how are we enforcing that exactly?
I don't know.
Is there a statute or something?
Like, everyone should go out with their fly swatters? I'm just,
And then, of course, they say use the least toxic method possible.
is there a suggestion on how that's enforced in that letter?
No.
Okay.
That's basically what it, and then, use registered insecticides to kill them, blah, 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 and that's it. But, I mean, like I said, we had sprayed at our house, and it's a war zone this week. I mean,
Yes.
they're everywhere.
Yes,
So, and you can see them flying across the field.
yes. I don't have an answer for you.
So I was just curious if there's any type of thing to enact or the townships.
Not that I'm aware of. Patrick, do you know of anything that you've heard
What
of?
is that publication you got?
From Penn State Extension.
Okay. Yeah, there's
They're
nothing.
the ones that certify us with the land.
Okay, yeah, I'm not aware of a basis at this point for any enforcement of what was publicized in that pamphlet.
All right. Moving on. Chris Champion, crosswalk at Brass Rail.
Hi guys, I'm Chris Champion. I'm your neighbor here. I live just in the neighborhood behind, and I sent you, Chairman Buckstead, a letter about the crosswalk here by Brass Rail. I just wanted to, I know you mentioned that in your October meeting that you guys are going to be talking about. I just wanted to kind of express how dangerous that intersection can be. And I know Chief Regal, you probably would like to know, my wife was trying to cross there one day, and it took an officer with lights on his roof to get people to stop, and they still didn't know that they were stopping for. Somebody went sailing by my way. We've been to Anvil, and we've loved the solar-powered crosswalks there. I understand that everybody wants capital expenditures from you guys. I'd just like to hope that as you're thinking about where do we put safety, how do we do this, I don't know if there's transportation grants that you guys can tap into, but certainly, we have a large group of people who live right over here, and then there are restaurants here, and the restaurant owners, I'm sure, would love more foot traffic, more people coming in. The Brass Rail parking lot is full all the time, and my wife and I walk over. So it's really, to us, it seems like a logical extension to keep both sides of Campbelltown safe by putting in some kind of crosswalk with a flashing light or something so that motorists are alerted more than just the white lines on the road and the two signs. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Pat Krebs, natural areas, sidewalks, crosswalks, ARP.
Yes, and again, I know the work sessions are when we're going to talk budget, but I was just, and I'm not sure this has been found out yet as to how the American Rescue Plan money can be spent. I know you're pretty sure it can go to sewage or municipal authority work, but if R2 does their study, I think they're presenting tonight, and I don't know yet, and maybe you don't know either until October or whenever they finally do all the guidelines for how the money can be spent. But we know the crosswalks that are well done with, like the solar panels that Chris was talking about that are in Anvil, perhaps some of the American Rescue Plan money can be used for that kind of infrastructure, and that's what I'm watching for, to see if we can't put some of that money in that direction. Also, Anvil, as I let you all know, did get some excellent grants in Anvil Township, so it cost them very little for what they were doing because of the grant writing. The other piece I wanted to mention, the Chesapeake Bay Journal is, I get a hard copy, but it's online, and they have a significant article about the fact that in order to clean up the Chesapeake Bay, they're looking to the counties and they're looking to the local governments to be really key in making sure the streams are clean, and also a key part of the whole process to make the Chesapeake Bay a healthier bay. And so it's a long article and you can see it online, but since we have natural areas in Carriage Park, a natural area in the community park, a natural area supposedly in Stone Knoll, the vision when they did that, when they developed that plan years ago, was to be able to make that a native plant area that would be good for obviously bees and the birds and the things that have to pollinate, which is another important piece of our natural surroundings, but also to make sure the creek, this Point Creek, Spring Creek, is one that is in much better shape than it is presently. Thank you.
Thank you. Connie, agenda, EMS, fire board meeting, municipal authority.
So the agenda was not put up on the website till late this morning. So that's really in violation of sunshine law. That was handed out at the fire board meeting. So that has to be straightened out. And then on the fire board meeting, I was just checking, Patrick, you're still working on that with the those two members? Was that ever?
You're talking about what was discussed with respect to the appointment.
The 10.
In reviewing what was provided to me, which was, I don't know, was it the bylaws or the resolution?
It was a resolution.
Was it the resolution? It actually, those members are appointed for an annual term. So it's something that when the board considers in January when they do the reorganization, if they wanted to add that to the list of annual appointees, they can do that. Without any, there's no need to
Write anything up?
correct at this time. Yep.
Okay, so I actually was very blessed to go to the fire board meeting. Sad to say, I've lived in the township for a very long time, and that's my first fire board meeting, but it won't be my last, because I really enjoyed it, so, got an education. But I really did not feel, in being there, that the sides were equal. I felt as though there were more family members, like Faith Bucks. I mean, a lot of your families with Juan. Jack, you're with Juan. So I didn't really feel like the sides were very fair. So as far as voting and things like that. And so I don't even know, like when we voted for certain things, that's concerning as a resident because I don't feel as though the sides are fair. That in itself, I thought that, there was some, like Jim gave his budget. I didn't get a chance to look at Campbelltown's, but now I'm going to be able to do that. But it looked like Campbelltown's was pretty good, their budget. But I mean, Jim, I don't know, you kind of made it, you know, gave me like emotion to think that you're wanting the fire board to, or to have the tax moved up. Is that what you were?
This is public comment, so
I should ask him that?
well, you can, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do it.
Well,
This
I'm
is-
still baffled. You
Because I'm
saw
asking if the board's
Campbelltown's,
thinking
you
about
saw
as we-
Campbelltown's,
As we're moving forward. in
no, you saw
budget,
Campbelltown's budget at that meeting?
Excuse me?
You saw Campbelltown's budget at that meeting?
No, they did not. I came here tonight, and now they said it was on the website, because I asked to try to get it from John, but no. But I mean, they said that there really wasn't much of a change. But my question to the board is, you know, are they thinking about raising the fire tax based on, because all three of you were there at the meeting, are you thinking about raising our fire tax? Is that something you're considering, or?
We haven't looked at that budget yet. That'll be in our workshop this month, right? Is it
that
this month? I believe it's October.
Okay, and I'll attend that. And then the EMS, just so I'm understanding, there's nobody here from First Aid and Safety, is there?
Not tonight, no, they were unable to make it.
So I guess there's a ambulance over there that is in South Londonderry, and that ambulance, that's not an advanced medic unit, is that correct?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because
It's a BLS unit.
right, a BLS unit, which is kind of like a, so if we really need an advance, we'd have to call Hershey Lifeline, is that
It's
right?
the same way it's been for the 25 years that I've been in the fire
Right, I'm
department.
just questioning it.
I don't know, you'd have to talk to
Yeah,
them.
that is the way it is, but, okay, thank you.
All right. Well, that was fun. Dot, you have new, I don't know what that says, alley?
Chicken scratch, I'm sorry.
Addie, that's okay. I was like, new city, new alley, new.
Why don't you guess?
I didn't know.
So, I had a question. I came to the budget meeting and I was a little, I guess, surprised because I saw that there was a new attorney being hired by the township. It wasn't on the agenda that I saw online, but it was that night. So I was just curious, why do we need a new attorney? I know we really rely heavily on Patrick for a lot of things, so I was just curious why we're getting a new attorney.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure I'm allowed to talk about that, am I?
It's,
We can probably talk about why.
yeah, there's a grievance by the police department, and in discussing with the board, it made sense for the township to consider special counsel to handle that specific matter.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you've dealt with them in the past.
I
I
have.
guess that's why I was
This
like,
one,
what's
this
going on?
grievance, I'll be honest with you, this grievance, I felt it would be better for the board to consider a special counsel to come in.
Okay, so along with that, when I was at the meeting, I was kind of Googling while I was here. And Joe Rudolph is the new attorney? Is that his name? I looked him up and it said that he represents the management team of public employers by conducting employment investigations of alleged misconduct by public employees. He regularly conducts employment investigations of alleged misconduct by public employees, noted twice in his bio. Is there a reason in particular we picked this guy? I mean, is there something we should know about? Are there internal investigations going on?
First of all, this board's not going to comment on any internal investigation. I can tell you.
Are there any investigations we as the public should be aware of that you're investigating our police department or anything like that?
No, but again, if there was, that wouldn't be something that this board's going to comment on with respect to an
Okay.
executive session discussion with respect to personnel. And he was appointed for a specific purpose in dealing with a current grievance that has been filed by the police association.
I guess I'm looking at it as he's a Philadelphia attorney. We didn't have any local attorneys we could turn to. Why did we go out with it?
He actually, I think he's the labor counsel for North Londonderry, to be
And
honest with
what's
you.
the cost for this attorney? Is he per hour and what is that cost?
I don't know what it is off.
I think the proposal, I don't have it in front of me, but I think the proposal was $340 an hour.
$340 an hour?
I'm pretty sure, but you can,
Are you able to tell me what we pay you per hour?
not that.
That's why I'm asking, because I asked for your information a couple of years back, and I know it wasn't 340.
I'm not sure, it's not.
I don't want to quote numbers because I'd have to look them up
Yeah.
to, I mean, I'm sure if you emailed John, John would be able to tell you that.
Okay.
I mean, listen, when you get attorneys that specialize in something, it's gonna be high.
I went into the wrong line of work.
Takes two of us.
Me too.
Okay, that's it. That's my question.
I'm gonna make one comment that Patrick might strangle me, but there's no allegations of misconduct in the police department.
I hope you understand.
No, I
As a
do.
wife of a police officer, when I Google a lot because I want to know what's going on with the township, with police in general.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I got upset. I was not happy to see that. So I hope you understand.
There's
as a
none that
resident,
there's none that
as a
I've ever
police
been made
officer.
aware of.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure.
All right. Jane Popko, budget and recreation fees.
I'll just give you a copy of this. Because it's in here. Okay, I've been doing some research in relation to recreation fees and the budget. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the budget on the 25th due to unforeseen circumstances. So this probably shouldn't be brought up in public anyhow. This document represents a summary of South Londonderry budgets from 2017 through 2021 as it relates to recreation fees. According to the document retention and disposal schedule for records, the township is required to retain one copy of the annual budget permanently. I submitted the right to know request on 7/27 for budgets from 209 to 221 and was told that they were accidentally discarded, apparently during the move. I can understand an accidental discard for budgets prior to maybe 1980 to 1920, but not those from 209 to 2016. I was looking for clarification on justification for using the fees collected from developers in lieu of recreation fees within the development. There was a House bill passed in 2013, and it passed by Maury Gingrich and Mike Fulmer, that says funds from such account shall be expended only in properly allocated proportions of the costs incurred to construct specific recreation facilities for which funds were collected. According to the 2017 approved budget, the recreation fee has a net surplus of $16,454. This seems to indicate that all acquisition and development costs associated with the purchase and development of the Campbelltown Community Park between 2009 and 2016 had been satisfied. This surplus should have been used to complement the two Marcellus Shale grants of $7,000 and $7,500 to purchase the pavilion for which the grants were requested. And these grants were being held through 2017 and are still being held for that pavilion. And I believe the previous manager asked Lebanon County to hold the funds probably because of getting more money from recreation fees. There is no 2018 approved budget. The only reference to the 2018 budget is found in the South Londonderry Township 2019 budget worksheet. The worksheet shows historical data from the missing 2015 and 2018 budgets. However, this data does not correlate with the 2017 approved budget. The worksheet seems to link the fully funded park acquisition and development, indicating $65,344 deficit in 2015 and $21,618 in 2016. There is also an apparent $1,497 net surplus in 2017, even though the approved budget indicates net surplus of $16,454. If the $16,454 was the actual surplus from a budget, and there were also contributions from developers of $43,000 in 2017 and 2018 budgeted amount would have been 59,780. The worksheet indicates that somewhere between 52,780 and 63,364 was to be transferred from the recreation fee to the general fund. There's also some indication about the 2019 budget and recreation fees from the 2020 budget. There are no actual records for 2015, 2016, and 2018 budgets to support the data on the 2019 budget worksheet. There are also no budgetary records prior between 2009 and 2014 to support any remaining costs associated with the acquisition and development of the park. There were DCNR grants given to the township for the acquisition and development of the park. The funds for acquisition and development of the park were approved prior to 2015 by the previous supervisors. Any recreation fees collected after 2015 should have been utilized to benefit further development of the park. There is no resolution to authorize or justify the transfer of recreation fees to the general fund. The actual 2017 net surplus of $16,454 plus the assumed 2018 budget transfers of $52,700 to $63,364 plus the 2020 budget contribution of $20,280, there appears to be $80,500 plus to $100,000 plus $100,098 in the recreation fee fund that should be available for additional development of the park. The 1917 budget workshop seems to contain data. The 2019 seems to contain budget that cannot be substantiated since no supportive documentation exists. Although, also, since the current supervisors were the ones doing the 2019 budget, all data prior to 2017 would have been speculation and assumptions. To appear totally objective, it might be advisable to assign any developer recreation contributions from 2015 to 2021 to the recreation fund as documented above. Since no budgets exist prior to 2017, there could be an assumption of fraud or at least ethics violation in relation to the transfer of recreation fees to the general fund. The township appears to be obligated to assign the matching funds from the two Marcellus Shale grants for the designated purchase of the pavilion for the Campbelltown Park. Also, the remaining recreation fees should be utilized for further park development. The remaining fees could be used to address the pedestrian walkway from Fox Road to Carriage Park to the Carriage Park to the community park, since access has been blocked via the Campbelltown Volunteer Fire Department. The park was originally designated to be a community park for South Londonderry Townships and not another soccer park for non-residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And will this be further addressed? You substantiate the information and further address it at the next meeting?
No, we've discussed this argument. I have no interest in having any conversation about this. We've had this conversation over and over again for at least a year. So, no,
But there
unless you do, Jack. Do you have any?
are
We've been over
funds
this.
that are being misappropriated.
That is your opinion.
There's no documentation to prove that it's not your opinion that all this stuff is being doctored. Where are the budgets?
John, if you couldn't find them, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I haven't gone into the closet and looked at everything, so no, I don't know. I can probably find them at my own home. probably,
Well,
but.
you provided a lot of information here. So I suspect maybe, John, to the extent you haven't looked into this.
No, I did, it was a right to know
He gave
request,
me
and
the
I
right
gave
to know
it. In fact, it's
request.
been 2 right to know requests over the last 2 years for the same information, and I
Okay.
was able to find 2 more years in the last year, going back to 2017? I think it was
Yeah, it was
17, yeah.
2017,
Yeah.
there was a budget, no 2018 budget.
So, no, there was another document that referred to it.
That was a
So-
worksheet that had
It was a worksheet.
fictional information
A
in it.
worksheet, that was actual information on there, on that, so.
But there's no documented proof of that, it's just,
So-
Ever
Well,
since
that's all
I
we have
started,
is
there
we
was a
have-
spreadsheet that told us exactly how much was robbed from Peter to pay Paul of this park.
well, that was
So
approved.
we've gone over
in
this over and over
2015.
again.
That was over and done with. The recreation fees moving forward should have been used for the park. There's no resolution to give you the license to transfer recreation fees into the general fund. That's fraud.
You keep,
That-
you keep saying that, you throw that
Well,
word around, and I don't
it's an
know.
ethics violation.
I don't know if anyone has sufficient information to be throwing those words around.
Well,
I
then where
think-
are the documents? They're to be retained permanently. How long has this township been in existence?
Well, not having a document or not being in immediate possession of a document is a lot different than mismanaging funds and taking fraudulent actions. And that's what you're throwing out here, and that's inappropriate, because I don't know if there's sufficient evidence to throw that accusation at anyone.
Well, then give me the
What I will
documentation.
say is I will follow up with John and look at what we have, but this township goes through their budget at a public meeting every year. And, you know, I don't attend all those meetings, but we can look back to see if I'm understanding what you're saying, you're making an allegation that money in one account was moved or is no longer there and there's no trade. That's what there's a lot here, but that's the
Right.
gist I'm getting.
That
And
there's no documentation to justify.
So what I think we can do-
The transfer of recreation.
With the understanding that this is public comment, and you provided a lot of information here, and you're
Right.
throwing out a lot of accusatory terms, I think the township should be given the ability to look at what you provided and to see if maybe you're just misinterpreting it, reading, not getting all of the information in your.
Well, I asked for the information.
Okay,
I
understood.
brought this up about 2 years ago and was blown off, so I did further research, and I was amazed to find that documents that are supposed to be permanently stored in the township no longer exist.
Understood.
Yes, Connie?
Yeah, that's my question. Is it, John was supposed to provide documents to her. I mean, if those documents are missing, I mean, these are budgets for our township. And so those budgets legally, is what, if I'm understanding what she's saying, should not have been destroyed, and they are. So we need to really be sure here where our budgets are. I mean, no wonder there was some money issues going on.
Well, that's an inappropriate.
Are you telling me
Discussion.
that there was not any, I sat at these meetings, and I questioned.
Where is your proof that there was anything inappropriate going on, Connie?
It's
You're
all
slinging
documented.
words that are not
You know
accurate.
what, I sat at these meetings, and I questioned it. I
Okay,
questioned it.
Okay.
you have absolutely no proof that any fraud or anything was misappropriated.
That's why I'm asking the township solicitor here, if we had the documents and what she's talking about.
You're talking about a budget.
proof.
That is, it's a budget. That's not
And
what
it's not
actually
supposed to be
happened
destroyed.
for the monies
It's not
moving
supposed to-
around.
It's not supposed to be destroyed.
Okay, well, it's been brought to our attention. We'll get to it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, and the,
Yeah, I'm just-
sorry, Dot.
I just want to request that it be put on the agenda for next meeting to discuss, if possible. I think a lot of us would like an answer to
Yeah.
where the budgets are, if they're available.
Okay,
I just have a question, maybe it's too simple. I used to work in a business office for a public school district, and I understand what you're saying, we had to keep certain things 4 years, 7 years, and then for eternity. But we always had to submit things to the state. Is there a state agency that the township has to submit a budget to, that perhaps instead of going through you, she should go through that state agency? I'm just trying to think outside the box to have a simple solution to a problem.
I don't know that the budgets are submitted in any
Okay.
place. I know that they are supposed to be.
You don't routinely do that?
No.
Okay.
What we do is we have to advertise it. You go through to wherever we advertise over the umpteen years, but you're not going to get the individual funds necessarily. I'm not sure exactly what was done in the past. And that's the challenge, okay? I inherited an awful lot here. Coming in here, and it's not, everything's indexed. I don't have a computer system that you just go ahead and pulls it up. I've been in systems like that. I developed it at a college. I understand how a fine-tuned system works. And right now, we are coming out of dark ages. And if things are misfiled, if they are not indexed properly, I don't know. I have been dealing with an awful lot of things. I did my best for Jane on both of her right-to-know requests. There's a point in time where I have to cut my losses and keep moving on. She sent a second request in. I went and looked further in that, and over the course of the year, I actually found additional information. So I continue to build the information on it. And in the budget process also, what we did was we incorporated a loan schedule to show the payoff between the general fund and the rec fund. And I don't need to debate that right now, but there was a payment schedule because there wasn't enough rec fees when they purchased the land over there. So there was a mortgage per se that is still being paid off, and that's what's outstanding there. That's all that I can piece together. I wish I had somebody to sit beside me to be able to say, hey, listen, this is where everything's at. Unfortunately, I'm feeling myself along here, trying to do the best I can for people, and I want to get to the answers. I want to do the right thing. I am by the book on these things. So when I hear about fraud and things like that, you know what? I was a whistleblower. I dealt with embezzlement before, okay? I made sure that we got the federal prosecutors in and involved in that. So I know that there's some history, some accusations. I don't know. I'm looking forward. I'm not looking in behind here. And I can guarantee you that fraud is not going on going forward. I don't look good in an orange jumpsuit. I have a 12-year-old. Okay, and that's one of the reasons I came here, to try to make a difference with things. And I know I can't please everybody, but boy, am I certainly trying.
All right, any other public input?
Can I
Yes,
make one comment on that?
sure.
Trevor Crocop, I live on Barnwell. Since we acknowledge that the documents have been misplaced, what kind of corrective actions have we put into place to make sure it doesn't happen in the future?
For the current years, I'm in charge of those, and I know where the documents are going. I just haven't gone back. I mean, there's tons of files and things around here that are just not indexed. And if you ever had to go through boxes upon boxes and boxes and look for things, it's very difficult.
I don't envy you. Do you have a formal data retention policy?
Yes, it's required. It's under the municipal code.
Somebody enforces that?
We just went through a resolution here the other month to take care of getting rid of those files on a period of time.
And it is the retention of disposal schedule for records for Pennsylvania municipal authorities that says you must retain one copy of annual budgets permanently.
It's supposed to, but again, we're the folks that previously took care of that. I don't know, Jane.
Like I said,
I'm
the
certainly
ones-
trying to go forward.
the ones maybe prior to maybe 1980 might be missing, but it's hard to believe that the 2009 to 2016 would be missing when they should have been like up front in an office and not in some storage box in a basement.
Again, I can't explain what I've inherited. I'm doing the best I can. Sorry.
Jim, did you have something?
I just wanted to clarify some of the comments relative to the fire board meeting. As to the fairness that Connie wrote, several members of the fire board were not here that evening. She probably wasn't aware of that because it was her first meeting. So that's that. As to the budget, we were given budget parameters to work within with an estimate of what the income was going to be. that, for many people don't know, it's split 60-40. Campbelltown gets 60% of the funds and we get 40%. There was one company at the meeting that presented a budget on paper, and that was wrong. Just to clarify, the purpose of that meeting was to review budgets in order to send them forward to you guys. So I just didn't feel like the comments led people to believe that we submitted a budget. It sort of seemed reversed to me, but.
Well, and I didn't vote on anything, and I can't help who I'm related to. So I don't know what to say.
Well, I don't think we voted on anything.
I don't think so, but.
Thank you.
Seth, did you have something?
Just a quick question. You said the budgets are published annually?
Yes, we're required to put them in a local newspaper.
You're required to advertise that they're available.
When the board is about to adopt the budget, there's a requirement in the code to advertise the budget.
So the budget itself is not posted.
No.
My wheels are spinning.
But,
If by
well-
someplace, I mean, we'll
2009 to 2016, I don't know if they would have been.
No, and I think I'm thinking that it's when, after the audit, I'm required to do that. That was something new in the last couple of years that I've had to record. And it's the balance sheet and the P&L, basically, it's not the budget.
Right. And don't forget, the township gets audited all the time.
Absolutely.
But you made us aware of the issue, and we'll follow up.
And to be clear, I don't have 2009 to 2015 because I only got in 2016, but I could probably dig out 2016. And did you say it was 2018 you're missing?
2018 is missing.
I can probably find those in my nice file cabinets down in my basement. All right, anyone else have any public input? Yes?
Just to share, for those folks who don't know, there was a lot of controversy when the land was purchased for the community park. And it was a 2-to-1 vote to purchase the land. But all three supervisors at the time agreed and passed a resolution saying that they wouldn't use tax dollars any further for developing the park. So the question that many of us have had in our minds is, are recreation fees equal to tax dollars? Because we thought that people would be getting development of the park through recreation fees. Your decision, other supervisors, I think, have decided without voting to make rec fees equivalent to tax dollars to pay back the amount of money the township paid for the park land from Elders. And I've always wanted to see the supervisors, whoever is sitting there, pass that resolution saying, oh, in addition, we're not only going to not use tax dollars to develop the park, but all recreational fees will be used to pay back that amount. I've talked to past supervisors, and none of them can remember ever having voted a resolution to use the rec fees to pay the equivalent back to the cost of the park. So that's the dilemma that a number of us have in our minds, the difference between rec fees and developing the park and tax dollars.
I think back, in my opinion, the decision when the park was decided to be purchased, they probably should have had all the money, not borrowed it from general fund and said that they're not going to use taxpayer money to do that. So here we're left with that.
The justification is done in the budget process. Every year, there's transfers within there. There's not individual resolutions created to transfer that money. It's done as part of the budget process.
Just a serious disagreement that some of us have. We think the rec fees should have been used to gradually develop the park.
Okay, anyone else?
I just have one other thing to add. Could you just put on for the September, for the October meeting to address the September 1 flooding on 322 and the Spring Creek flooding and how that's going to be addressed with MS4 funds to prevent the flooding in relation to the climate crisis that is approaching, and that flooding needs to be addressed.
Just to be clear, the board sets the agenda. They can take your request or your suggestion under advisement if they want to, they can, but at the end of the day, the board sets the agenda with respect to matters that they have to act upon.
Okay, well,
So at this point, we're going to move on. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 10th?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Meeting minutes, do I have a motion to approve from workshop August 25th?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bill and payroll lists 1621 and 1721. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. John, do you have a report?
Yes, sir. If I can find it.
Okay.
Bear with me. All right. I want to thank all the individuals involved with assisting in the recent rain event, specifically the Public Works, the Municipal Authority, the police officers, the fire departments, and the EMA team led by John Breeve. While many of us were at home waiting out the storm, these folks were addressing the numerous issues related to the flooding in order to keep the township's infrastructure functioning. Thank you again for everybody's assistance on that. Just a reminder, the Campbelltown Community Alliance is planning on hosting another community cleanup day this fall. Mark your calendars for Saturday, September 18th from 9 to 12, Township Building here. The rain date is set the following week, September 25th. Lastly, I want to read the email, but for press purposes, it's unofficial. I had a webinar the other day, and they said, no, there's going to be a press release in October. We are pleased to advise you that the Board of Directors of the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation has approved $220,000. Can I say that again? $220,000 for the Killinger Creek Stream Stabilization and Riparian Forest Buffer Project. Pending successful completion of our programmatic and fiscal review process, this award is provided on the conditions that these funds will be matched by $95,000 of matching contributions raised by South Londonderry Township. Now, the other good thing on this is we also have another grant that's outstanding, the Growing Greener grant. That will be announced later on this fall. That actually could be used in lieu of the matching of us digging into our pockets, and basically we have two grants playing one against the other, that there would be no money expended for this, and it would take care of our BMP project for this cycle for MS4 purposes. So, huge news for the township on that. However, I will ask that you don't go to the press, because this whole, there's going to be a major press release of this, and so it's unofficial at this point in time, but yeah, it is official, if you know what I mean. So, that's all I have.
Thank you. Do you have anything for zoning, or are you just on the here for the crosswalk?
Excuse me, nothing for zoning tonight.
Okay. Do you have anything from Frank that you want to share? Okay. Patrick, do you have anything that's not on the agenda?
No, there's two other items on the agenda that probably have some comments on, and I do have a brief executive session discussion with respect to personnel.
Okay. Chief, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, just some quick stats here. Officers reported on 331 incidents during the month of August, made 4 criminal arrests, 2 were DUI arrests. Officers issued 68 traffic citations, 3 non-traffic citations, and 1 traffic warning. I want to express my appreciation to the Middletown Borough Police Department for apprehending 3 individuals who were involved in a vandalism spree on it was August 26th in the township, smashing windows of about 3 dozen vehicles, and also targeting Palmyra Borough and North Londonderry. So because of their efforts, we were able to file charges against the 3 suspects who were from out of state, not local individuals. Lastly, trick or treat is scheduled for October 28th, which is Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Once again, extra candy for anyone dressed as a police officer. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. I don't see Kendra here. She didn't give you a report. I just checked my phone. I didn't get anything from her either. Okay. Campbelltown, do you have a report for us?
For the month of August, we had 36 calls, average person of 7, average response time 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Assisted Palmyra once, Lowell 4 times, Danville twice, Belgrove once, First Aid and Safety 13, Lifeline once, Hershey 3. There were 3 building fires, 1 vehicle fire, 1 shed fire, 1 lawnmower fire, 13 medical assists, 2 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 2 farm rescues, 2 assist police department, 2 power lines down, 2 public service, canceled en route 5 times, and carbon monoxide activation once.
Okay, thank you. Lon, are you doing yours?
Just briefly, in essence of moving on to more important things. 2021 to date, 164 calls, 12 building fires, 8 other fires, 6 investigations, 69 roadway service calls, and 69 other.
Okay, we did get First Aid Safety Patrol in an email, their report, they were unable to make it tonight. Do you have anything for Palmyra Rec and Parks Commission?
No, nothing to report.
And meeting minutes, to note in our packets for 2. You want to take the floor? And I'll go pretend to be Bill Bova a second.
Would only be up here.
You're making that disappear, John.
It'll disappear in a second.
Good evening. So I know I'm my back to everybody. Mike Naus with Rotu. For those of you that don't know me, I am the township engineer. I routinely attend. You probably know my counterpart, Frank Putnick. Beginning of the year, going into budget season, Manager Everly asked us to perform a crosswalk evaluation. I think when he touched base with us, he said there was 2 locations. Somehow that turned into 25. Not sure how that happened. And those are just briefly highlighted here. So you can see they were scattered throughout. There was a list identified by the board, the community, of areas of interest in promoting pedestrian safety throughout the community. So we dove into it, we went out, we did a field investigation. That field investigation, can't talk tonight, considered a whole multitude of things. First and foremost, when we look at these types of improvements, we have to consider the manual and uniform traffic control devices, as well as the Department of Justice and Department of Transportation guidelines, which say anytime you improve, install new facilities, even a crosswalk, you need to bring pedestrian facilities up to grade. So when we went out to these locations, we looked at, are there curb ramps, ADA accessible curb ramps there? Are they to today's standards? What does the traffic look like? What does the surrounding community look like? Is there connection to other sidewalk facilities throughout there? So we came back with all of our field notes, made poor Manager Everly's head spin, along with staff. Police chief sat down through that presentation. We kind of boiled through each of those 25 locations. That's a lot of locations when you're talking crosswalks. And when we looked at it, we said, really it's about corridors in the township. There's the 322 corridor. Starting from the beginning to the end, you pretty much start and end at both with traffic signals. You do have an intersection prior to the one. The primary focus of 322 is to move vehicles through. It is an arterial street, large volume of traffic, and you see it even at the traffic signals, which have pedestrian facilities. There's pedestrian push buttons there. PennDOT only gives just enough time to clear pedestrians through that intersection. If you ever cross, you probably see as soon as you start crossing, that countdown starts coming down, and you gotta be moving to get across. So PennDOT's preference is vehicular traffic through that area. Second corridor is really looking at the connection to the commercial businesses at 322 and Lindmar, Palmyra Drive area there. So it's kind of a hub of activity. We see a lot of pedestrian traffic in that area. You have Annie's, Turkey Hill, everything kind of there. Not a lot of parking. People do have to walk to that area. Third, Township Park. Obviously, the Township Park is meant to be a destination for the community. With that being said, you look around, there's no pedestrian facilities in the area. Forge Road, kind of the south development interconnection there. If you're looking back at the map, I apologize, I don't have the pointer tonight. But you kind of have the interconnections of the developments on the lower part to the south, which ultimately feed over to the park, that area. We'll also talk kind of about Hinkle Road and that corridor. You have existing developments, walking trail system, and how that gravitates and moves towards Northside Drive. So I just touched base upon east-west Hinkle, kind of that interconnection. Last is Northside Drive. You kind of have an east side of it, which is primarily residential in that area. You have ongoing, finishing up with the Windermere Phase 2, the continuation of the walking trails there. How do you promote people across Northside Drive there? On the other side, the west side, you really have more commercial type, integrated with some residential, but you also have vacant land there that has the potential for development in the future. So when you boil through that, we went, okay, what are our 5 priorities? Because again, 25 locations from John's original 2. Still don't know how that happened. Makes it a little difficult. So collectively as a group, we sat down, we looked at the things that we were missing, and we tried to look at these. These are in no specific order. Ultimately, it's up to the Board of Supervisors, and it all comes down to what's within the means of the township fiscally to do, what grant opportunities are out there to do, and what does the board feel is a priority. We just picked the 5 locations and we're kind of walking through them. So the first is kind of that connection to the commercial center up at 322 there. We all know that the overflow parking is back on Lindmar Drive. This was brought to me probably 2 years ago, maybe 3, I don't know at this point. But as you look through that area, that parking lot is not necessarily well designated, it's not well restricted. You'll see on the northern side of Lindmar, there are existing ADA, but you'll notice I have them highlighted in red. They are not up to today's standards, so those need to be improved. Really, that parking lot, as far as pedestrian access, should be restricted, whether it be landscaping, split rail fence, something in that, and focus to a central crosswalk location, which we kind of designate.
Is that what the squiggly line is?
The yellow,
Or to
yeah.
be- Not the yellow, but there's a red.
The squiggly line
that to
is
be like a
landscape
or
fence, some sort of barrier, just to promote that, so that people aren't just cutting at all locations. Again, it's about safe and efficient movement of pedestrians at a designated spot. It sets up motorists so they're aware where people are crossing. Pedestrians have the same expectations then. The other thing I'd like to point out is going to the south, you also notice that there's not the connection of the sidewalk. You're missing that portion facilitating the development down there. So that interconnection is pretty key. You'll notice that when that development went in, they did set up for ADA ramps, which are kind of in the middle of nowhere. Again, that expectation for drivers, they're not expecting it. It's a mid-block crossing. That doesn't bode well for pedestrians or the vehicles. You'll also notice part of that discussion a couple of years ago was related to the actual intersection itself. The road has curvature to it. So it's not just pedestrian safety, it's also vehicular. Really a stop ahead sign there would do wonders because the existing tree, et cetera, kind of makes it difficult to see. That's why we also suggest that the crosswalk be well in advance of that intersection because of the curvature. That's a better area for visibility for pedestrians in that area. And again, the intersection is a little strange in nature. The township may want to actually consider a stop condition, the yellow line stop bar on Lindmar, just so you don't have conflict with additional vehicles. Moving on to Northside Drive, on this one, I believe this was one of Chief's favorite areas as far as pedestrians versus traffic and speed of traffic. So it's no secret that people tend to go a little faster on Northside Drive. The nature of it, it's wide open. And as the developments finish up there, you want to bring recognition to pedestrians through that corridor. You're getting set up with the walking path system. Windermere actually had a meeting with us. It's called a prepaid meeting. They intend on putting the wearing course on and completing the rest of the improvements. They're not quite sure if they're going to get it done before the winter here, so it may spill into next year. But by next year, they're going to have their portion of the walking trail system done. That's going to be set up to cross right there at Northside Drive to the other side where the walking trail currently accesses. So that sets up very nicely. Similarly, at Springbrook Drive, you currently have 4 ADA ramps. So I'm a big proponent of when you have higher traffic and people going a little bit faster, give them only one spot to worry about. So having 2 different crossings on Northside Drive can be cumbersome in that. We would suggest that A, you have to bring those ADA ramps up to current standards, but B, promote only one crossing point of Northside Drive. So that's kind of that. As far as grand scheme of things, that's a little simpler in nature as far as improvements. Digging through the records when we were doing this, Manager Everly came across that previous study had been looked at here at Market Street and 322, the existing crosswalk. Previously they had contacted LTAP, local technical assistance program, basically to get recommendations. LTAP's report, it's included in my actual written report. I'm giving the Cliff Note version, by the way, tonight. My report's about yay thick. They suggested improvements at that crosswalk to address pedestrian safety, including flashing pedestrian signal, or as they're referred to as rapid flashing beacons. And they can be solar powered or electrical powered. The study even went so far as to suggest maybe bump outs, those type of things. But if you actually look there with the existing driveway accesses, if you add other improvements in that area, then you begin to impede upon your businesses there and restrict access. So initial step is making sure, now since the state repaid, they redid the pavement markings, they're pretty fresh. Obviously maintaining your pavement markings is critical. Again, that 322 corridor, that kind of opens up partnering or grant opportunities as far as improvements. But it's not only putting in some sort of device to draw attention, it's where do they go after they cross. And you'll notice the biggest thing there is it really serves as a parking lot out front. There is no sidewalk there. And again, I kind of briefly touched upon it. You won't see the rest of the 322 corridor because there's just a lack of connectivity through that corridor. And it's big picture. And in order to accomplish something like that, the township really needs to partner with Lebanon County Planning and see what long-range plans there are and grant opportunities for the 322 corridor. And again, really, Scott's going to say you should focus them to cross at the signals, not at a crosswalk at every intersection. They're going to want to see you select designated points, which you already have, but getting the pedestrians to those points. So in this case, again, acknowledging we don't want to detrimentally impact our businesses, in the report you'll find that we're suggesting either through painting or decorative type crosswalk or line striping, that an area be designated for pedestrians still allows vehicles to cross. You're not creating a physical barrier, you're not taking away, but you're drawing attention to vehicles entering that property that this is a pedestrian area. I'd already kind of briefly highlighted Hinkle Road. We have two different areas. Brookwood, again, with everything that's already there, you have a development on the west and the east. And on the east side, then you begin your pedestrian trail, which links up to Northside Drive. So it all kind of flows together nicely. So you have infrastructure there, it's just facilitating that crossing. Either lack of or non-compliant ADA ramps, we would recommend that you address the 4 there. When you look at it, you also have the existing trail crossing, excuse me. The existing walking path trail crossing that you may want to evaluate. It's tucked back in. There's probably some vegetation management that could be done with the HOA there. Because as you round the corner, you don't have a good sight of that walking or that pedestrian crossing beforehand, just because of some of the vegetation that's out there already. But there's a situation where if you address the ADA ramps, you can address the crossings. And again, you may want to limit it to 1 crossing on Hinkle Road. Same thing at Old Farm Road, that slightly to the south. Again, interconnection east and west. This one made our top 5, but it wasn't quite as high. But again, it's really interconnecting those 2 developments and provides an additional link to the north. Again, continuation of the existing walking trail system in the development going to the north. And it's a mirror case of ADA ramps and crosswalks to bring in. So unfortunately, it's not just putting 2 lines on the ground and saying we have a crosswalk. Throughout this discussion, I always observe a lot of things as I drive throughout the township. And one of the intersections that we looked at was on Linmar at, I always forget the name.
Woodlawn Palmyra Road?
No, I can't read it. The bus stop's right there. I'm horrible, I can't remember the name.
Fox.
Irregardless, what we know for sure is a lot of people bypass Schoolhouse Road and come down Woodlawn, to they can get to the light out of 322 Palmyra there. Bottom line, rather than a pedestrian issue, we actually see more of a traffic calming issue. So we threw this in there just kind of as a supplementary evaluation and some things for the board to consider. I know early discussion, some citizens had commented, recommended, could we get bump outs, those types of things there. Chief commented that for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon, it's a little crazy there for the kids getting on the bus, etc. But beyond that, he didn't see the pedestrian as much crossing at that location. What I will say is that road is wide as anything. It's restricted, no parking on both sides, and there's no line striping. Wider roads promote faster speeds. Simple measures can be just striping the road. Double yellow, double white, travel lane, give the illusion that the road's narrow. Second, evaluate whether you want on-street parking or not. It's all residential there. It's being used as a cut-through. Cars parked on the street tend to help give that illusion of a narrower street and reduce speeds. And then third, you can look at whether it be bump outs, drainage out there makes it a little difficult for those, or chicanes. We gave a whole slew of examples from the Institute of Transportation on different traffic calming measures. Each of them has a varying degree of cost. You'll see that we suggested considering 2 chicanes, which is a shift in traffic movement, slows speeds of vehicles going down, goes more in the center of the road so we don't have drainage issues. So we put that in our estimate as far as possible consideration. Again, that traffic calming could have several steps to it, from simple, such as line striping and removal of no parking, to the actual physical improvements. So what's it all boiled down to? I mean, any good plan, you need to know how much is it, how does the township address it, and where do you go from there? Well, I thought I had to pick up Mr. Everly off the floor after I gave him the first draft of the report. But we all know that every time you go in, you start improving existing infrastructure, especially the ADA ramps, where you're rehabilitating the existing, those costs adds up very, very quick. So just for an example, curb in a new development, starting from blank, is about 25 bucks a foot. When you go in and do ADA repairs, you're yanking out existing and putting it in, we're anywhere about 100 bucks a foot. So you're dramatically different in the cost of that. So you'll see that in the cost. And the reality is the 5 priority areas that we just kind of walked through is $250,000. That's a lot for one municipality to think about. And no municipality is going to be able to do that without some offset in funding. There's detailed estimates in there. Those estimates, along with kind of suggestions, can set the township up for looking for opportunities for those fundings. I had suggested to the manager that we go ahead and share the plan with Lebanon County Planning so that if there's opportunities beyond what we already know is out there, or in coordination with the Transportation Improvement Plans, commonly the TIP, that the MPO works to formulate. If those projects start to align, at least they have the plan, they can start to try to funnel some of that in. The township can seek grant opportunities there. There are small bits and pieces that you can do to chip away at some of it, especially like the traffic calming, that's financially responsible. But ultimately the board will have to evaluate, digest, prioritize, and fit within the budget what needs there. So.
Okay, thank you.
That's that one.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Mark, do you want to go first? Or first
You made the comment that 322 is meant to move traffic. Anybody who lives in this town should take offense to that. 422 is made to move traffic too, and when you go into Annville, they got the wide yellow crossings, they got the things in the middle of the road that says pedestrian crossings, and to me that's a simple fix. I mean, is PennDOT just writing off Campbelltown? Let's book them through Campbelltown and we don't have to worry about it?
Unfortunately, that is the growing trend of PennDOT, yes.
I don't know your name to the right of Mark. I always forget it. Andrew, yes. Geronimo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't remember your first name.
I had a similar comment. I didn't see anything there that unites the two halves of 322. We're still splitting down. The only way to get from one side to the other, besides running across that really short traffic light, is driving, which isn't great. You also mentioned that the park doesn't have any pedestrian access, which is kind of true. Where was that in the plan?
So as far as the park, when we looked at that, because the surrounding area, none of it has sidewalk in that area. That is a long-term project to achieve that. That in itself probably has $500,000 to $1 million price tag. So as we're trying to look at making successful implementation in the township, we're trying to prioritize and say, what can we do that actually is feasible at this time? It's not to say the other 25 locations or 20 locations in that aren't important, but you gotta start somewhere.
I used to be able to go through the back of the fire station to get to the park, or through the carriage park to get there, but they basically cut those paths off, and there's one rickety bridge that you can access from the back of it. Are there non-sidewalk paths that you can imagine that we could put into the back of the park?
So, I mean, again, it depends if you have access, and right now you're talking about private property that's chosen to cut the township or residents from crossing. So you have to overcome that issue.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Did you,
I
yeah?
have a question. Do you mind if we just bring up slide 7? I guess this is pretty much the only major crosswalk right there, going from the grass rail. I think the reason for this crosswalk is actually because the pavement ends going east on this side, right side of 322. Right. And if you actually cross over and you continue going down to the east on the side where it looks a little lighter, you eventually get obstructed by all the brush and the overgrowth.
And the drop down
And
in the
drop
field.
down, yeah, and- So I guess, is there any plan for maybe, people wouldn't have to cross if there was a sidewalk, right? So how big of a problem is that? Is that in the long-term plan?
So again, we identified that 322 corridor as a whole, and I briefly glossed over it. There are several instances of deteriorated sidewalk or no sidewalk at all. And as you look down through again, and you start adding up all of it and how much there is, it was a large project. A project along a state road like that better fits in with grant funding and aligns sometimes with the transportation improvements that the MPO, the county, are looking to do. So again, it was kind of that division, not to say, no, it's not important. It was, let's pick some of the smaller key areas that we can try to make an improvement with, and long-term focus on trying to work with these agencies to achieve kind of that walkable community goal.
Yeah, that would be great. One of the other points, we mentioned deteriorating concrete and pavements. Is there something in place to make the homeowner restore their concrete?
I'm sure there's a sidewalk
Yeah,
resolution or ordinance, but I
There-
haven't looked at it in a long time.
There is, but the challenge kind of goes back to the same thing, like how do we nitpick, like I think they all were supposed to have sidewalk and some have been covered and removed, and like, if I was one of those homeowners that maintained mine very nicely, I'd sure like to see my neighbors do the same
There's
thing.
been some great improvements right there by the chiropractor. I think somebody just had a retaining wall put in.
So, those people took it upon themselves, but then you get to the other folks that are like, well, it's always been this way, I'm not changing it, if you don't like it, you can pay for it. So, it's a balance, and that's kind of why we asked for the greater study, so that we can define the most important to the least important and try and chisel away at it.
Yeah, I guess that's something for code enforcement. We want to mention, we didn't see the slide, and not to get into the community park, but from Stone Knoll, I believe that intersection's already ADA compliant, coming down, so maybe it would be a potential with just some paint on the ground, possibly passing Lawn Road. Stone Knoll, cross over Lawn Road.
That was in here, you had that in here.
Yeah, so none of the ADA ramps that were reviewed passed. None.
Interesting.
Zero.
All right, yes, Jane?
And keep in mind, those regulations change repeatedly.
And there was a resident that was trying to raise money to put a pedestrian bridge, I think it's from Fox Road to go into the park after the Campbelltown Volunteer Fire Department access was no longer available. So, I mean, that could be one of the interim measures before you get the sidewalks. I think it's Fox Road across a stream and into the park.
Something to note, the other thing that we noted was you have a recreation facility. There's opportunities for continued development of that. That opens up another pot of money through recreation, DCNR, those types of funds. If there is planned development in the future, linking connectivity and sidewalk can be part of those grant fund applications. That way you're not looking just at transportation funds. Because if all you're going after is transportation, they're going to get tired of you at some point and say, nope, we have other communities that we need to fund. We have to broaden as far as what pots of money you can pull from. So we look at recreation, transportation, is there an economic development initiative, those types of things. How can you get the most out of the different agencies for the funding?
And I think DCNR is, I think one of their objectives is to have walking to the park, to a park within 10 minutes walking from the residents is one of the long-term goals of DCNR. So that could be something that could be addressed.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Pat?
I'm only going to suggest that PennDOT clearly, since the passing of the last Act 89, made sure that site and Penn was to be included. So I will take a little bit of umbrage with my working with PennDOT. I do think there is a sea change there. And Jeannie Granger, the Deputy Secretary for Multimodal, would feel very frustrated if she felt that they couldn't take 322 and make it also into a neighborhood street. With that, there is multimodal funding available in PennDOT. The dilemma with it right now is that the local match is higher percentage than what other grants are, but there's also the TAP in PennDOT as well, with federal funding. And if the new federal transportation bill ever gets passed in Congress over the next couple of months, there may be additional funding sources as well. So ARLE, the red light running light program was what Anvil used for one of their grants. So I think there is money out there, but we also have to have a plan to be able to get it.
And you also have to remember that depending on what the sources of funds are, can drive the overall design, construction type costs up beyond just traditional. So it's a balance act that you have to weigh all those things and also stretch out the time period. You add federal funds, you add a significant time period to your project. Because now you're talking environmental clearance, those types of things. So.
Jack, do you have anything?
I think I saw he was there.
Oh, Mark,
I
sorry.
think what makes this intersection here more dangerous, that you didn't mention, and it's only several times a day, that's a bus stop. So the bus stops right there so the kids can cross on that crosswalk.
That's scary.
Okay. At this point, do you want us to do anything besides have the ability to potentially send it over to the county level?
I was going to say at this point you have the report. Again, if any questions as you dive through it come up that you would like an answer, reach out to Frank or myself. Ultimately, it's there to aid you in your decisions. Obviously, you've had a lot of public input over the past couple of years regarding walkability of the community, and we believe that collectively with staff that this was kind of the first step to give you that broad picture. You can talk about it all you want, but until you have something maybe to work towards and an idea of what the implementation costs are, you can talk about it all day, but this really is the platform to give you information to make educated decisions in the future.
I think this is the first step of us, you're absolutely right, going to the county, going to other individuals. We wanted to make sure that publicly we went through the channels here, make sure we buy on before we start bringing it to other entities. I've already kind of put it in certain people's ears and things like that in anticipation of funding and matches and other things, but getting it out to the Planning Commission, the county, the different entities there so that we can kind of keep moving along. But this is more formal now. Now we have some substance as opposed to, oh, you know what, I need a crosswalk. We have somebody that's credible that wrote something that knows what he's talking about.
All right, thank you. Do you have more? Yes,
I have
I'll
one
stay
more.
here then.
Figured, so the second part going in the budget season last year was Manager Everly said, can we do a feasibility study of South Forge and Airport Road? We said, sure, we can do that, and then started doing some digging here at the township. So back in 2015, Hanover Engineering had performed an evaluation regarding that intersection. That evaluation went so far as to do traffic counts, do a warrant analysis, and see if a traffic control device was warranted at this intersection. It indeed said it does meet PennDOT's thresholds. It gave schematics for both the traffic signal with the lane improvements as well as a roundabout, and it had some costs in there. Further digging, the township dug up another LTAP report. Again, they're a technical assistance provider and they're funded through the state. And that report was focused on bicycle traffic in Lingle and Airport, but also kind of was a review of that traffic study that was done. And I'll focus on that LTAP report. We went through and we analyzed the existing report. The information presented there is reasonable and accurate. LTAP came up with the same recommendation, but after that, LTAP got a little wishy-washy on their report and basically said you should have your engineer take a look at it. That never really took place, so that's kind of where we stepped in here. After we found these reports, kind of went back to Manager Everly and said, we don't need to quite do the full scope of what we were talking about before. Let's drop back, kind of make the most sense of this. Let's see what the previous report was, what the sketches look like. Okay, are they reasonable? First thing is did the sketches accurately accommodate the vehicles that moved through there? So all those pretty colored lines are the truck turning movements for the largest vehicle that would go through there. Why is this important? It would verify the general configuration. So on Forge Road, you'll see it was being expanded so that there was a left turn onto Airport. That would put 2 through lanes and the left turn. And then on the southern side, you have to match that. And you can see just over top the aerial, the white lines were what Hanover Engineering had kind of shown as the widening improvements. But you'll notice our green line on the south and the north track outside the radius they were proposing. So they weren't quite big enough to accommodate all the trucks through there that we would have to design for PennDOT. They were awful daggone close. Same thing on the roundabout scenario, and I won't spend much time. They jammed a much more compact, which is a roundabout. Obviously, you're familiar with it, just to the south. And same thing in looking at it. Again, very, very close, but you'll notice some of our lines track outside their white lines. So they were probably short a little bit of paving, a little bit of other stuff in their estimates. So the big concern in that previous analysis was their cost. The signal costs and the roundabout costs that presented considered not just construction for the physical improvements, but it included utility pole relocation as well as right-of-way acquisition. Obviously, clearly just here in the roundabout, you're impacting private property outside the existing right-of-way you need to acquire. And what's interesting, if you look at the traffic signal, you're hitting about 10 utility poles and about 6 properties, where with the roundabout situation, you cut the utility poles in about half, and you have a smaller footprint of the overall right-of-way take. Now, it's heavier on one property than the other, as shown in this sketch. So you look back at that 2015 report, I'm just going to round it, they were about $1 million. Well, things don't get cheaper. So we went through a similar effort. We gave a little more detail in our memo that we sent to the township. But essentially, we're about $1.5 million for the signalized intersection. That includes utility and estimates for right-of-way acquisition, and then about $1.6 million for a roundabout option. So essentially, we found that the 2015 study, as far as the warrant, is valid. They were close, but not quite, but again, it was a sketch. and that the costs that they presented in 2015 generally were consistent with what we're finding, and unfortunately nothing ever gets cheaper. Why do they look so similar? So I noted the difference in utility poles. That's a lot right there. Again, your land, traffic signal, that was very linear. You were impacting a lot. That included a lot of pavement because you have lanes plus the taper. So that's a lot of infrastructure that you're putting in. A roundabout option is pretty central, and while it looks expansive, if you walk out to what you have, the center is mulch. You don't have the expensive paving, those types of things. So that's why there's not that huge cost difference that you might think there would be. So, again, the OTAP report summarizes it very well. If you have a previous study that states that traffic control is warranted, obviously that exposes the township to some extent, and essentially you're showing good faith steps that you're looking at it, verifying if that study was accurate. You kind of went through that process with the LTAP report. This is kind of the final verification of the LTAP report that the costs generally were reasonable back then and have elevated today's cost 6 years later. But again, that's a lot of money for one intersection. And again, the only way personally that I see it is in partnership. Again, it's a state road working through the MPO, working through Lebanon County to try to facilitate. Maybe it's an area of concern for them. There's a ton of development in North Londonderry. South Forge Road is not getting any lighter in traffic volume that's going down it. Now you have reasonable estimates that you can take to them and start to, again, build that partnership and see what comes out of it in the future.
And again, if I can add, just like the crosswalks, I've already been in contact with some of these entities to let them know what's going on, especially because you are dealing with a state road out there also. I mean, this should not fall just on the burden of South Londonderry Township. So they are receptive. They wanted us to go through our process, which I told them the supervisors already were putting it in motion. This is the first step again to try to do that, and Faith, later on maybe we can talk about the next option on this. From Jamie.
Oh, do you want to talk about that now or when? Questions?
Right after this, right after this.
Yes.
So that's all I have for the board. That's our long two awaited reports. Again, this one got simplified a lot once the township was able to dig up some of the pre-existing information. We abbreviated it. Be glad to answer any questions the board has.
I don't have any, thank you. Does anybody out in the crowd have questions about this potential project?
Everybody wants to walk, nobody wants to drive.
Guess that.
So let me tie right into the
Thank
next
you.
step on this here.
Thank you.
There was entity reached out to the township and said, hey, listen, understand that you're looking for some funds for a major project coming up. And we said, yes, we are. She said, you know, what you have to do is get a report and fill out this capital budget itemization request form, and if it's over $1 million, you might be able to get on the docket for 10 years for funding of this. No guarantees, but this would be the first step if we could do this to basically take a look at getting free money to help us out.
From whom?
This is through the state, I believe. I'm not sure exactly which entity it is.
Pennsylvania, it's R-P-R-A, what is it?
RCAP.
Yeah,
RCAP.
RCAP, sorry, just
Possible
mixing them up.
Yeah. So again, it kind of dovetail, again, us talking, getting in with the right people, letting them know what we're working on. I mean, we're just taking little steps here. The report kind of supports exactly that. It's a $1 million baby here, and hey, why not try to put this in and.
It's a stretch, but it has to, with some of the requirements with that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's connected to an industrial area, which it is. It affects multiple municipalities, which it does. But it's a stretch to see if we would be approved, but it's 3 pages, 4 pages, and we already have the study.
Yeah, so it's really a cover letter, I think, basically. It's really not that bad. But it's a deadline. I think
By
it's
the end of the month,
September
the 28th.
28th or something, 28th, that we
Yeah.
have to have it filled out, so.
One, check the cable connection in the settings of the source device. 4, press the source button below to select the connected source.
Who's sitting on the remote? Thanks.
I was gonna pull the plug.
Oh, no.
No, it's fine.
You got it? Okay.
Would it be possible, John, to get a capital project list, not linked to the budget, just crosswalks this intersection that we can, constantly review and move things around? I mean, staff is limited with retirements and this and that, but at least then we'd have a target to see the progress on.
I think that's what we're kind of starting to develop here. I mean, we took a look at the bridges here last year, and they're in good shape. In fact, I had one of the state folks come in here and do a bridge study, and they're coming in and meeting with me again, and everything's looking good for that. So, because it was a certain width or something like that. But yes, to answer your question, the short answer.
I mean, it's
We can
all,
start
a lot of that
developing
stuff's buried in the budget. It'd be nice to have a standalone document that, hey, here's our priorities, and we can move them around.
Yeah, you can kind of see that this is multifaceted. I mean, we're looking at all kinds of different things. It's like your household. I mean, you'd love to have that beautiful chandelier and everything with a pool and all kinds of tennis courts, whatever, but geez, I'm on beer money, I'm not on champagne, I don't have champagne.
You're eating ramen noodles, is what you're telling me?
That's it.
We had monies, I mean, we've been putting monies aside for this airport road project, so there is money set aside for that.
But if we can go after and get
Yes, no, we
money,
obviously have
that's
to,
what we're
yes.
trying to do, and the folks that we've been talking to, they are listening. And so the opportunities are there for us to pursue, it just takes time.
Do you want a motion to fill out that paperwork? Jack, do you want to look at that RCAP thing?
It's just a one thing
Yeah.
there.
If him filling it out obligates us to nothing, I don't see why we wouldn't.
It doesn't.
No.
It's a slim chance we'll even
Right.
get it, but,
Then I would make that motion.
okay. I'll second it. Do you have any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Anything else on that, John?
No.
Okay. So moving on to the Sunoco settlement agreement. Oh, I'm sorry, Patrick.
No, oh.
Sorry. No, I apologize. I didn't realize you were looking at that.
If the board recalls, this is with respect to the Sunoco pipeline that came through.
Yep.
They entered into a number of agreements with the township to ensure that they repaired any damage to roads after they were done. They have been done. I think this was before you a few months ago, and you're conditionally authorized moving forward. We now have the final agreement with Sunoco with a list of the improvements that I believe I've told John and or Scott a handful of times to make sure that's all of the improvements or all the damages that they have to address, and I believe it has. So this agreement would resolve 2 of the agreements you entered into with Sunoco. The one outstanding that I believe, I'm not sure who's looking into it, is with respect to the E&S, correct, the riparian buffer, and to make sure that they did everything they needed to do within that area, and that is not part of this because I believe we're still looking in to make sure that they did everything they needed.
That is correct. I contacted and requested the required documentation and scheduled a site visit with them. They were trying to locate the required documentation, and I have not heard from them for probably a month and a half at this point.
So the important thing is this agreement does not include that work that they're tied to. It only it's only tied to the improvements to the roads they potentially damaged during the project.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept this?
Just to be clear, I thought when I scanned through here, it indicates that these are already completed.
No, they have 18 months to fix it but they're planning on doing it in October. They've already have a third party doing it.
Now, once they complete it, Exhibit B will come before you, it will come before the township, and that's the release date. Exhibit B is once they complete all of the work, we're going to acknowledge the fact that they've completed it satisfactory after inspection.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, now I'll make a motion to approve the settlement agreement and release. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to new business. We have the stormwater plan, 145 Bell Road. Thank you. I was like looking who's talking on this. Okay, yes.
And working with Mr. Pipione on his proposed patio pool area, which is probably adding impervious area, which constitutes for a stormwater management plan. So we prepared a stormwater management plan for the property.
Can somebody let Jim, oh, never mind. Sorry.
Locked out. So we prepared a stormwater management plan for this proposed improvements, which is a swimming pool, patio area, and then a future garage down the road. But the stormwater improvements will capture all the new impervious area for that project. Submitted it, we worked with the two under comments, the technical comments, and also the stormwater maintenance agreement that was assigned and notarized by the for that. So tonight we're requesting final approval for that stormwater management plan.
Do you have any comments or?
I was going to say, we issued a review letter, we're recommending approval, contingent upon staff's verification of the administrative items that were outstanding.
Okay. Patrick, do you have anything?
Just that if the board is inclined to entertain a motion to approve the stormwater management, or the stormwater plan, it would be conditional upon compliance with whatever comments are in the review letter, as well as the execution and recording of the standard stormwater facilities maintenance and monitoring agreement.
Do I have a motion to that effect? I'm not repeating all that unless you want to.
So moved, and then I got a question.
Okay, I'll second. Do you have your question?
We can approve.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this plan? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Patrick, is this our standard? Like, are these agreements all moving forward now?
This, since I've been here, yes. Yeah.
Much easier to enforce from the staff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the intent of these are to have them recorded, to provide the township the ability to inspect the property to ensure that the stormwater facilities are being maintained appropriately. And there are certain standards contained within here that DEP typically looks for with these documents.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, moving on. We are on to the 2022 non-uniform police defined contribution minimum municipal obligation. Was this different than, is this one,
No, yeah,
is the same?
yeah.
That what was in our packet? Okay. Do I need, I always forget do I need to read each of these or just approve?
That's what we did
Okay.
last year.
Do I have a motion to approve these?
And these are just our standard
These are standard, RJ Hall reviewed everything, make sure that everything is good, that we don't miss out on any of the state funds ultimately.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Anyone have any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, moving on, advertisement of restructured positions. Do you want to
These are
talk about that?
These are the upcoming retirements in the office here. What we need to do is we need to get replacement. I need help so that we can get bodies in here to train and take over and basically support so we don't miss the beat on anything. So number one, what we're looking at, Scott Galbraith is retiring on the authority side of things. His authority roles have been restructured on that. So what we're looking at here on the township side of things, one of the things that we're recommending and looking at is a succession plan here for the township. If I'm out a day or something like that, just like Scott used to do, I mean, somebody to step in and help keep everything rolling. So I'm looking at a job description that is basically with the title of Assistant Manager, and that role will oversee the highway, the MS4, the zoning, and some of those items there, and we will still continue to use the engineers as the zoning officers.
Until we get things switched over.
Until we figure all that out, yes,
Okay.
yes. So we're looking at the advertisement of getting that out there so that by the time Scott is ready to retire, we can get somebody in here and start. That's the first one.
Okay. Do you want a motion to advertise that?
I didn't know if you
What
needed a
time?
motion for that.
We typically do motion that. So,
It'll be a motion to authorize him to start putting together, I guess, a job description.
Well, we have that, yeah,
And
we
to-
worked on that. It's
advertise.
to advertise, yeah, yeah.
do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I'll second. Do you have a question? Yes, Connie?
So there's gonna be, how many employees then in the township?
Well, bear with me here, I've got to go through the rest of this also here, so I can give you a
Okay.
better answer on that, okay?
Okay.
Anyone have a question on this particular motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
And then with Glenda's position, with her retiring, coming on, the board already is split some of that function out, and we, at a previous meeting, the accounting and some of the payroll functions are being done by an outside entity. So what we're looking at doing is restructuring the position to a part-time position, and have them go ahead and do the receptionist and having back up to the authority position, and be able to keep the operation rolling there on that. So
Okay.
we're looking for a part-time administrative support position.
Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
I'll second. Any questions? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, anything else, John? On that restructuring?
No.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to 2021 Sticks and Biscuits 5K event. We do have the application here. Chief, you're good to go with this. This has been their, are they on like 12 years? How long have they been doing this? Yeah, and that was just a guess. I'm not sure if it's 12 years, but it seems like a while. All right, do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second, any questions for anyone? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Trick or treat? Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No, but Chief already talked about that in his.
Yeah, I was just gonna say trick or treat, we're done. We already talked about
we're-
that. October 28th, rain date November 1st. Do I have anything for good and welfare? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you all for attending this evening. Township is busy. What was in the meeting?
Association.
Oh.
Soccer game.
And then there was a party. Okay, I was like, where am I parking?